Since the earliest days of humanity, people have sought to master the world. They built kingdoms, conquered territories, accumulated wealth, developed knowledge, tamed the forces of nature. Yet despite all these conquests, one question remains. The most important of all: who truly masters their own mind? For there is a truth that the greatest sages have repeated throughout the centuries. The person who rules a nation may be powerful, but the one who rules themselves is free. And between power and freedom, there is an immense difference. Power often depends on circumstances. Freedom is born from within. It is born from the ability to remain master of one's mind when storms arise, to stay faithful to one's inner light when the world becomes confused, to listen to one's soul when external noise seeks to drown it out. Most human beings spend their lives searching for answers outside themselves. They seek happiness in possessions, peace in circumstances, security in the guarantees of the world, recognition in the eyes of others. But spiritual teachings remind us of a different reality. Everything sought outside is fragile. Everything that depends on the external world can be lost. Wealth disappears. Situations change. Relationships evolve. Time transforms all things. So where can one find something that endures? The ancient masters answered this question with one voice. Turn your gaze inward. For it is within yourself that the true journey begins. A journey that leads neither to a geographical destination nor to material success. A journey toward self-knowledge, toward mastery of the mind, toward the awakening of the soul. And this journey is undoubtedly the most demanding of all, because it requires courage. The courage to look at oneself honestly, the courage to observe one's fears, one's weaknesses, one's attachments, one's illusions. All those things we often prefer to ignore. The human mind sometimes resembles a restless sea. Thoughts constantly arise. Worries follow one another. Desires are born and then disappear. Emotions rise and fall like waves. And as long as we remain carried away by this constant movement, we feel as though we are merely enduring our existence. We become slaves to our reactions, slaves to our impulses, slaves to our fears. But spiritual traditions teach that another path is possible. The path of observation. The path of awareness. The path of inner mastery. For the one who learns to observe their mind gradually discovers something extraordinary. They discover that they are not each of their thoughts. They discover that they are not each of their emotions. They discover that there exists within them a deeper presence. A silent presence that observes without being carried away. A presence that remains when thoughts change, when emotions pass, when circumstances transform. This presence is what many call the soul. Others call it consciousness. Still others speak of the true self. The words change, but the experience remains the same. This is when true mastery begins. Not mastery over others, not mastery over the world, but mastery over oneself. The ability to choose one's reactions rather than be controlled by them. The ability to remain calm when anger seeks to take control. The ability to stay clear-minded when fear clouds judgment. The ability to preserve inner peace when external events become chaotic. This mastery is not a gift reserved for a privileged few. It is a discipline, a daily training, a practice that requires patience, perseverance, and above all, awareness. For the unmastered mind resembles a wild horse. Powerful, fast, but incapable of following a steady direction. By contrast, the disciplined mind becomes an extraordinary ally. It ceases to be a source of confusion. It becomes a source of clarity. It ceases to scatter energy. It directs it. It ceases to nourish suffering. It fosters wisdom. And when this transformation begins to take place, one's entire relationship with life changes. Obstacles are no longer perceived in the same way. Trials become teachings. Difficulties become opportunities for growth. Even moments of doubt sometimes reveal truths that we would never have discovered otherwise. For every experience contains a lesson for the one who learns to see through the eyes of the soul rather than through the eyes of fear. Perhaps this is the true secret passed down by the great spiritual teachings. Peace is not conquered outside oneself. It is cultivated within. Freedom is not obtained through domination. It is born from self-mastery. And the greatest victory a human being can achieve is not the one won over the world. It is the one won over their own mind. In this exploration, we will set out to discover this ancient wisdom. We will seek to understand how the mind can become a servant rather than a master, how the soul can regain its place at the center of existence, and how every human being can access a peace that does not depend on external circumstances. For before transforming one's life, one must learn to transform the one who lives it. If the greatest victory is the one achieved over one's own mind, then a question immediately arises. Why does this victory seem so difficult to attain? Why do so many men and women long for inner peace while living in constant agitation? Why? As a human being progresses along the path of self-knowledge, they discover a truth that changes everything. The greatest obstacle has never been the external world. The greatest obstacle has always been the state of one's own mind. For years, sometimes for an entire lifetime, we believe that our suffering comes primarily from circumstances. We blame events. We blame others. We blame fate. But the great spiritual teachings gradually reveal another reality. The true battle takes place within, in that invisible space where thoughts are born, where fears are formed, where desires grow, where the ego constructs its illusions. The unmastered mind resembles a kingdom without a sovereign. Every thought demands power. Every emotion imposes its direction. Every fear dictates its decisions. And in this constant turmoil, the soul struggles to make its voice heard. The individual then becomes a prisoner of an endless movement. They pursue what they desire. They flee what they fear. They alternate between hope and disappointment, between attachment and the fear of loss, between ambition and dissatisfaction. And even when they obtain what they were seeking, a new quest immediately appears, as if something within them remained forever unfulfilled. The sages have observed this phenomenon for thousands of years. They understood that the problem was not desire itself, nor even the difficulties of life. The real problem is identification. Human beings eventually come to believe that they are each of their thoughts, each of their emotions, each of their fears. They forget that within them exists a consciousness capable of observing all of this, a presence that remains untouched amidst change, an inner light that the storms of existence can never completely extinguish. This is why mastering the mind does not mean eliminating thoughts. It does not mean fighting emotions. It means no longer surrendering control to them, becoming the observer rather than the prisoner, rediscovering that inner space where consciousness remains free. For when the mind ceases to govern alone, something extraordinary begins to emerge. The soul gradually reclaims its place. Peace replaces agitation. Clarity replaces confusion. Presence replaces distraction. And life itself begins to be experienced differently. Little by little, events no longer hold the same power. Difficulties become teachings. Obstacles become initiations. Trials become opportunities for growth. Not because suffering disappears, but because the consciousness observing it has changed. The one who masters their mind discovers that every experience contains a lesson. Every encounter contains a mirror. Every challenge contains an opportunity for growth. And every moment becomes an invitation to awaken more deeply. Then comes one of the greatest revelations of the spiritual path. We often spend our lives searching for freedom, but we search for it in the wrong place. We believe it depends on circumstances, on possessions, on status, on recognition. Yet true freedom appears when we cease to be governed by our fears, when we cease to be slaves to our attachments, when we regain the ability to remain at peace even as the world changes around us. For nothing is more powerful than a disciplined mind in service of an awakened soul. The great spiritual masters were not admired because they controlled others. They were admired because they mastered themselves, because they had discovered that inner stability that nothing could take away from them, because they understood that true wealth is within, that true victory is within, that true power is within, and this possibility exists within each of us. It depends neither on our past, nor on our mistakes, nor on our wounds. It simply waits to be recognized. Perhaps the ultimate purpose of existence is not to become someone else. Perhaps it is to become once again what we have always been. A free consciousness. A soul capable of loving. A presence capable of observing without judging. A light capable of passing through trials without losing its true nature. For behind the noise of the world, behind the fears, behind the doubts, behind the illusions of the ego, there exists a space of peace that nothing can touch. And it is within that space that true transformation begins. So if this message has resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What is the thought that limits you the most today? What is the fear that your soul is inviting you to overcome? What is the inner change that you know you must undertake? Share your answer in the comments. I would sincerely love to hear your reflections. And if this exploration of mastering the mind, awakening the soul, and spiritual wisdom has brought value to you, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps this community grow and allows us to continue together on this journey of understanding, awareness, and inner evolution. Always remember this. You are not your fears. You are not your thoughts. You are not your limitations. You are the consciousness that observes them. You are the soul that continues moving forward despite the storms. And the greatest adventure awaiting you is not somewhere out in the world. It begins within you. Here. Now. At this very moment.